to knock down that idol. And that was about this place. This god was worshipped by the tribe named Hudayr, and that was about. It was very close to Mecca, about 3 kilometers away from Mecca. And when Amr al-As mentioned that Rasulullah sent for this purpose, the doorkeeper actually he warned Amr that he would not be able to do it, because for him he was thinking of it as a god, and that Amr al-As would not be able to pursue this act. And so Amr al-As was surprised about his behavior, because he thought of it as, this is becoming very clear to the people that these idols are not going to be of any use for the people. And he thought of it that people will be very receptive and they will understand this by now, as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam already conquered Mecca, and the tribes in general, they were entering into the folds of Islam. But this response surprised Amr ibn al-As, and Amr ibn al-As went ahead and he destroyed that statue, or the false god that the people of Hudayr were worshipping. And upon seeing this, the doorkeeper who was there, he accepted Islam right away, because he realized that if it was a guy, he would have protected himself. And if it cannot even protect himself, how can it benefit others? So he became a Muslim right away. And another god that was worshipped by the Al-Aws, Al-Khazraj, and Ghassan, and some other tribes was Al-Manat. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent Sa'ad bin Zayd al-Ashhali. He sent him over there in the same month. And this is all the activities happen in the month of Ramadan, between the month of Ramadan and Shawwal. And Rasulullah sent him there to destroy this idol as well. And Sa'ad bin Zayd went ahead, and he was able to take care of that idol as well. And besides that, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also sent Khalid bin Walid to a tribe named Banu Jazima. And Rasulullah sent with a bigger number of Sahaba over there. And in general, the instruction for Khalid bin Walid was that not to do any kind of a bloodshed, offer Islam first to the people. And if they accept Islam, then of course they become part of the ummah, and there should not be any kind of bloodshed be done. This tribe of Banu Jadhima, they were Bedouins. And when Khalid bin Walid, he entered to their area, and when he went there, Banu Mushallal, or Banu Jazima, sorry, then these people, they, instead of saying Aslamna on the when Khalid bin Walid and the Sahaba, they asked them to offer them Islam. Instead of saying Aslamna, which means that we have embraced, they started saying Sabana, Sabana. And Sabana, as we have discussed in the beginning of the book, the Quraysh and the Meccans, they used to use this term Sabi or Sabana. It means that you have stopped worshipping the idols, or you have changed your deen. So they were actually saying that we changed our deen, meaning they were saying that they have left the idol worshipping and they're entering into folds of Islam. So instead of saying Aslamna, they said Sabana, Sabana. And Khalid bin Walid, radiallahu an, he misunderstood. There was a miscommunication happen. And because of that, he started fighting with them, and Sahaba along with them. And they killed quite a few, and they ended up taking the captives as well. And actually, Khalid bin Walid, he ordered that those captives to be killed as well. But some of the Sahaba, including Abdurrahman bin Auf, they actually stopped him. And when they reached Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they mentioned what happened over there, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, he raised his hands and he said, Allahumma inni أبرأ إليك مما صنع خالد. That and he said it over and over. And when Rasulullah said, which means actually that, oh Allah, I am free from what Khalid bin Walid has done. So because what Khalid did was a mistake. It was a mistake in a sense of miscommunication happened. Hence Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually sent Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anh to give them the blood money for all the loss of life happened by this accidental action, and all the captives that were taken and the spoil of war was collected from them, that was all returned back, and the blood money for every lost body was given to the family members of those people. And after the Ali radiallahu anh, after he paid the blood money, the amount of wealth Rasulullah gave to give it to them was actually more than that was needed for the paying of the blood money. Ali radiallahu anh gave the rest of it also to the people, and he said, in case you are not aware of there was any other loss happened, and he gave extra wealth to the tribe, just to make sure that the mistake that was done by Khalid bin Walid has been paid off. Okay, and then to talk about, so these are some of the aftermath of Fatah Mecca, or conquest of Mecca. The important thing to understand about the battle, about the conquest of Mecca, or Fatah Mecca, is that this battle that happened between Rasulullah and the Meccans, or the Quraysh in general, that was one of the things that the whole Arabian Peninsula, or Jazirat al-Arab, was looking or watching, and they were waiting for the outcome of this battle that Rasulullah was doing against the Meccans. The reason was that the Kaaba had a very high place in the minds of the people, and they actually witnessed about 50 years prior to the Fatah Mecca, prior to the conquest of Mecca, they saw what happened to Abraha, one of the kings of the Yemen, who tried to invade Mecca or Kaaba, to destroy Kaaba. And Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down his soldiers, his Ababil that was sent, and they destroyed those people of the elephant, which was Abraha, the king of Yemen, who came with elephants to fight against or to destroy the Kaaba. As we are aware of, Allah Azza wa Jal revealed in the surah where he said, "Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil," that have you not seen that what your Rabb has done with the people of the elephant? So that was actually a reminder for the Quraysh, to tell them that this is the same Allah Azza wa Jal has sent Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the messenger. Now, when this event happened, because for them, they knew that if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would become successful in taking over the Kaaba, then he must be the rightful owner of ruling over the Jazirat al-Arab, or the Arabian Peninsula. Hence, we see after the Fatah Mecca, the results were very clear, that most of the tribes, they started entering into folds of Islam. And last week, somebody asked me the question about Surah Al-Nasr, for example, if that surah was revealed at Fatah Mecca. And I talked about that a little bit, and I mentioned that I did not remember exactly the time of Surah Al-Nasr's revelation. And when I looked a little bit further, I found that actually the surah was not revealed right after Fatah Mecca. At least that this is what the Mufassirin discussed like that. It was actually Surah Al-Nasr was the last complete surah that was revealed on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the time of the last Hajj Rasulullah performed. But it is talking about the Fatah Mecca though. When it says that إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحُ, that talking about when the victory came from Allah Azza wa Jal, that you see that the people were entering into the folds of Islam in groups. And one of the reasons that it is mentioned as one of the last surah that was revealed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is because that surah asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to ask for forgiveness at the end. And Ibn Abbas radiallahu an, one of the greatest Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the one who was a mufassir of the Quran, one of the commentators of the Quran, that he once he was asked, when actually Umar al-Khattab radiallahu an was asked that why Umar, when he was a Khalifa, used to keep Ibn Abbas with him all the time, because Ibn Abbas was young. And among all the older Sahaba, why does he always keep Ibn Abbas with him? And Umar al-Khattab asked the Sahaba, what do you think of this surah? And everybody was giving different opinions, more about about the victory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted to Rasulullah and Sahaba. And then he asked Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh, what do you think? And Ibn Abbas said, this surah is actually telling us that Allah Azza wa Jal has conveyed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam the message regarding his going away from this dunya, that he will be soon, he will die soon. Because when you're done, complete your good actions, you're supposed to do istighfar to Allah Azza wa Jal. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was asking Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to go and ask for forgiveness. And some of the Orientalism, Mustashriqeen, they they try to use the surah as why Rasulullah was asked to ask for forgiveness. Does that mean that he has committed sin? And it's a different discussion. Inshallah, some other time we'll discuss this. But I just want to bring that up, that is a sign that this is one of the last surahs were revealed on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it is talking about Fatah Mecca, but it's not necessarily revealed at the time of Fatah Mecca. Okay, now let's move on to, I was talking about that the benefits of this Fatah Mecca, or the conquest of the Mecca. So this was the result of it. So the people saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a real legitimate ruler for the Arabian Peninsula, and they started entering into folds of Islam because of the strength of Islam. Many of them entered into because of the strength of Islam. Others entered because of they really thought of it, this is the true religion, and they enter into folds of Islam. And we see that later on, that how it turned out to be. Some of them, they really became very good Muslims was when they stayed in Islam and they saw how Islam was dealing with them or deals with us, with the people at large. And Fatah Mecca even itself was actually a result of Sulh Hudaybiyah, or the Treaty of Hudaybiyah that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had with the Meccans, and that opened up Rasulullah the doors for Rasulullah and Sahaba to take Islam to the areas around outside of the Arabian Peninsula as well. So we have talked about that as well, how Islam started spreading within when Rasulullah and Sahaba went for the Umrah and ended up with the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. There were about 1,400 Muslims. But when Rasulullah, after about less than 2 years, he went to Mecca to open the Mecca. Rasulullah had about 10,000 soldiers with him, and that was because of the doors were opened for Rasulullah and Sahaba that helped the deen to spread so quickly. And not only that, now the Mecca was opened in the 8th year of the Hijrah, and Rasulullah came with 10,000 soldiers. And right after that, within after 15 days, Rasulullah was informed of the two of the tribes, the main big tribes, Hawazin and Thaqif, Banu Thaqif. They were gathering to fight against Rasulullah. So in general, most of the tribes, they accepted Islam, or they broke some treaties with Rasulullah. But these two big tribes actually they took the stance of that they would fight against Rasulullah, and that was 15 days after the they were gathering around, they were gathering to fight against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he found out from the Sahaba that this activity is happening. Upon which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gathered an army as well. So, and now this time, the army strength was 12,000. So see, within 15 days, he came with 10,000 and that army became 12,000, which means that included the 10,000 soldiers that came with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and already 2,000 more soldiers of Islam who embraced recently Islam in Mecca. They joined Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well. So how fast the deen started spreading after the conquest of Mecca. This is the point I'm just trying to make, that, and that's an important thing to keep in mind when we think of Sulh Hudaybiyah, Treaty of Hudaybiyah, and Fatah Mecca, because that was a resultant of that. Unfortunately, nowadays, many times we find that Treaty of Hudaybiyah is used for downplaying the strength of the Muslims, or to show, I'm talking about today's perspective, or to make illegitimate treaties, peace treaties with whether it's about Kashmir or whether it's about Palestine. And we find, like recently, Emirates, the rulers of the Emirat, they have made treaties with Israel, one of the illegitimate occupiers of the land of Palestine. So obviously these treaties are not same as the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. As we can see, the Hudaybiyah was by the command of Allah Azza wa Jal, and the result of the Hudaybiyah was a spread of Islam more faster than before. This is what Allah Azza wa Jal referred to that as Fathan Mubina, meaning this was a clear victory from Allah Azza wa Jal. While what we see today, those treaties that have been signed in the name of some time, Sulh Hudaybiyah, are not from any means, they are not any kind of a victory in the favor of the Muslims. Rather, these are embarrassments, these are defeats for the Muslims and the Muslim Ummah at large, and for anybody who's living there. Okay, now, so move on to the next part of the Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which was after Fatah Mecca, and small skirmishes that happened that we talked about, whether it was about the Uzza or Manat or Suwa, or Banu Jadhima. Rasulullah sent different platoons to take care of those small issues. But besides that, in general, now after that, we see that there are two things are happening in the life of Rasulullah, which was either there was wars were happening, or there were some sort, or the tribes were entering into folds of Islam. That doesn't mean that the people were forced to enter into folds of Islam. I want to just make it clear that it had nothing to do with entering into folds of Islam, that as if people were entering into folds of Islam because of they were forced to become Muslim, because in Islam, it is not allowed to force anybody to enter into folds of Islam. As a matter of fact, it's haram for the Muslims to act like that. Okay, now, so the people of, as I mentioned, the people of Hawazin and Thaqif, they were gathering to fight against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they were headed by their leader named Malik bin Auf. He was the general leader who marched to fight against the Muslims. And when he came out, he made sure that not only those people, the fighters, come out, but he brought the women and the children and all sorts of cattle, whether they're sheep or camels or anything. So he brought all of them out, and the purpose was he was trying to show off his own tribe, that how they are going to get the victory. And when he was about so he came down to an area called Autas, and they camped over there. And while they were camped there, one of their older leaders, and he was a person who knew about, he was very, very well experienced in wars. His name was Durayd bin Sama. And Durayd bin Sama, he asked the people, he heard children are crying, women are hear the voices of women, children, and and cattle. He asked, what's going on there? And he was told that they came with the families and all their belongings and everything. So, and he asked about that. And they said, he asked, why did they do that? And he said, because Malik bin Auf, the leader among them, he is the one who asked them to do this. So he called up Malik and he asked him, well, what made him do such thing? And Malik said that his aim was to have everybody's family and properties around them, so they fight fiercely to protect them, so they can, because now they say what is at their stake. And now, and he says, I swear by Allah, the Durayt said, I swear by Allah that you are nothing but a shepherd. Do you believe that there is anything whatsoever can stand in the way of a defeat, or stop him from fleeing? So he's referring to, this is what's going to happen, what you're doing. And he said, even if you win, you will avail nothing but a man with a sword and a spear. But if you lose, you will be a disgrace for your people and you will lose everything. But that did not convince Malik for changing anything. And he refused any kind of suggestion. He said, he did not accept it. And he said, by Allah, he said, I will not do such a thing. You must have grown and senile, because he was asking him to go back. And he was saying, you have grown a crazy person. And he said, Hawazin have to obey me, or else I will lean my body against this sword so that it penetrates through my back. And he rejected any sort of contribution of Durayt. And on the other side, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was trying to gather the information about what's going on, and he found out the situation. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gathered all those 10,000 people that they came with him for the conquest of the Mecca, and also another 2,000 people. And he left Aitab bin Usaid as the governor over Mecca. Remember, Aitab was the same person who, when he heard about when Bilal radiallahu an, when he climbed over the Kaaba and he was giving the adhan, and he said, he was saying that that's good that his father, Usaid, was not alive to see a day that a black slave is on the top of the roof of the Kaaba and giving the adhan. And we talked about last week, and when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned him about that, he realized that he is a messenger of Allah, and right away he became Muslim, because there was nobody there except himself, Abu Sufyan, and another person, Harith. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned them what conversation they were having, because he was told by through the wahi that what conversation happened. So now he entered into the fold of Islam wholeheartedly, and look, Rasulullah right away within 15 days, and he made Aitab bin Usaid as the one who is who left him as a governor over the Mecca when he went out for fight against the Hawazin and the Thaqif. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was going there on the way to Hunain, where they were expecting to meet the Thaqif and the Hawazin tribes, they passed by an area called, passed by a tree which is called Dhat al-Anwat. Dhat al-Anwat is in the Jahiliyyah days, what they used to do was they used to hang their weapons on that tree, and thinking of that this will give them some blessing to the weapons. And when the army was passing by, some of the army members, they asked Rasulullah to make them something like this, where they can hang their weapons for the barakah, as a good omen or something. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was angry at them, and he said, Allahu Akbar, of all. He said, I swear by the one in whose hand is the life of Rasulullah Muhammad, that you have just said the same thing as what was said to Musa by his people. They said the same thing, that to make us a god or a cow, whatever, so they can worship them as well. So he said, surely you are ignorant people. So he said, these are the sunnah these are the sunnah, but you will follow and comply with the modes of life of those who preceded you. As we are aware of, that Rasulullah has warned many times, Allah Azza wa Jalla has warned us many times, not to follow the actions of the previous nations, meaning the Yahud and Nasara or Bani Israel. And unfortunately, we find ourselves in the same shoes, and we are ending up doing the similar things as the kuffar over there. They were asking, the newly Muslims who came into fold of Islam after Fatah Mecca, they were asking Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to make a tree or have a tree like that where they can hang their weapons, because they were expecting something from the tree, rather than expectation should always be in Allah Azza wa Jal. Our trust should always be in Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. So now, when they moving forward, somebody actually made a statement that we shall not be defeated because of the numbers that they had. Meaning they were thinking of, what the Muslims were thinking of, we are in such a big number. Muslims were never that big number of an army until that time. In Ghazwatul Badr, we saw that there were about 313. And even before Fatah Makkah, the biggest army that we see was of the Battle of Mota. And in that one, Muslims were about 3,000 only. While here, now there were 12,000 strong Muslim army. So somebody made a statement, we shall not be defeated. Meaning, they were thinking of as if the victory comes from the strength or the power. Unfortunately, at this point, the one who made the statement, and this was an incorrect statement. We understand that the victory comes from Allah Azza wa Jal. It's never the numbers that gave us the victory. It's from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. If we deserve the victory, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala will give us. But it's not the numbers. But unfortunately, nowadays it's always been shown to the Muslims as that how can we say anything about what's happening in Kashmir or Palestine? We are so weak, and this is a very sad kind of excuses that we make. Unfortunately, from the numbers, I want to talk about that we are. Muslims have the biggest army in the world if we combine the Muslim armies together. It's never the armies or the weapons that brings the victory. It's your will, what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And with the will, the help of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala comes along with it. So when it comes to the Hunain, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he moved on the 10th of the Shawwal, and the army of the Muslims arrived in Hunain on the 10th of Shawwal, and the 8th year of the Hijrah, which is about 19 days from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Actually, a couple of weeks after the Fatah Makkah. And over there, Malik bin Auf, who the leader of the army, general leader among the Hawazin and Thaqif army, who came there prior to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the army, and they were able to find a spot which was at a higher place, and they took the place in a way that the army of Rasulullah and the Sahaba, they had to pass through a narrow valley, and they hid there. And now when Rasulullah and Sahaba, they entered the valley, the army of Malik bin Auf, they were hiding, and they started throwing the arrows. I mean, literally, they rained the arrows on the army of the Muslims. And Muslims were not ready for this kind of attack, sudden attack from them. And all the Sahaba, except very few close relatives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and some of the Muhajirin. The rest of them, there's a chaos among them. They started running back. Actually, they started retrieving. And there's a person named, it's not clear, his name was Kilda or Jabla bin al-Judayd. He commented like this: surely the magic has grown inactive today, talking about the way Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam power was spreading. He was trying to show that, okay, now it looks like it's inactive. This magic is not working anymore. Now, in that situation, when the lejam of the horse of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was held by Abu Sufyan, who was recently became a Muslim. And Abbas, radiallahu anhu, the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was next to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah was on his mule. And the Sahaba was retrieving, but now we see the real leadership of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam here. That instead of he had very few people around him, and there's an army of 20,000 people on the other side. He stood fast. He was not the leader that he's in the back and all the soldiers in the front. Rather, he was there in the front, and he's the one who stood fast, and he started calling people back. And actually, he told Abbas radiallahu an to start calling them. And he was saying, "Ana nabiyyu la kadhib," that I am truly saying that I am the prophet. And he said, "Ana ibnu Abdul Muttalib," that I am the son of Abdul Muttalib. Of course, his father was Abdullah, but this is another way of you relate yourself to your grandfather also. Like Rasulullah also calls himself as son of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Does not mean that he was son directly of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So from the lineage it means. So he said, "Ana ibn Abdul Muttalib," that I am the son of Abdul Muttalib. So he was calling that, and then he told Abbas radiallahu anh, his uncle, to start calling them, because Abbas, his voice was very loud, powerful. So he asked him, and Rasulullah himself, he dismounted from the mule, and he said, "Oh Allah, send down your help." And while Abbas was calling tribe by tribe, calling them by the people who gave the Ridwan to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the one who were from the Ansar, one from the Muhajirin, or any of the different tribes. And the moment he was calling a specific tribe, they were saying, "Ya labbaik, ya labbaik," yes, we are present, we are here. And when they were hearing his voice, suddenly like they were waking up, because there was a chaos and they were retrieving. And their animals were actually going in the opposite direction. So the one who were not able to steer back their animal, they actually got off their animal and they came back with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they started fighting. And the way Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asking Allah Azza wa Jal to help the Muslimin. And he took the dust and he threw it in the air, and whoever's eyes that the dust was going, he was not able to see from the enemy side. The one who was throwing the arrows, they were not able to see, and that helped the Muslims to get back on their feet. And Allah Azza wa Jal actually talks about this victory that came after that. And after that, the Muslims were able to take over the Hawazin and Thaqif. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds the Muslims that لَقَدْ نَصَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ فِي مَوَاطِنَ كَثِيرًا وَيَوْمَ حُنَيْنٍ إذ أعجبتكم كثرتكم فلم تغن عنكم شيئا وضاقت عليكم الأرض بما رحبت ثم وليتم مدبرين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that on the day of the Hunain, that when you rejoice at your great number, that you were very arrogant, or being that today that you have big number and you are not going to be defeated, and you saw what happened to you. That the big huge number did not give you any benefit. And the earth became very narrow for you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding them how Allah Azza wa Jal actually helped them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala سكينته على رسوله وعلى المؤمنين. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the sakina, the peace and tranquility to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the believers. وأنزل جنودا لم تروها. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descended the soldiers that you did not see. وعذب الذين كفروا. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished the kuffar. وذلك جزاء الكافرين. And this is the reward for the kuffar, the one who are fighting the Allah and His Messenger. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has actually talked about only two battles by names in the Quran that Rasulullah and Sahaba fought. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَقَدْ نَصَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ بِبَدْرٍ وَأَنْتُمْ أَذِلَّةٌ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, غزوة البدر here, that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given you the victory while you were weak. And same way, if you talk about, so it's not the number. See, Badr, Muslims were very small in number, Allah gave the victory. Here, Hunain, they were big in number and they were losing everything. And there are many Sahaba Muslimin were martyred actually. According to one of the reports that talks about two of the Muslim tribes were completely wiped out in this battle, in the Hunain. And but Allah Azza wa Jal at the end is the one who gave the victory to the Muslims. And then Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam sent different troops, different Sahaba, under the leadership of them to follow the Taif, the Taqif and the Hawazin tribes when they were going back, returning back. And some of they were headed back to Taif, others went to the Nakhla, and some went to Autas. And there was a huge amount of actually the spoil of war was collected on that day. One of the biggest spoils of wars. That because remember they came with pretty much everything that they had. So about 24,000 camels were gathered, over 40,000 sheep, and 40,000 silver ounces were collected. This is, you're talking about millions and millions of today's dollars worth of goods were collected after this battle. And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam asked the Sahaba to, he left that actually all the spoils of war, and he said that it should not be touched until Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam will go to Taif and take care of this issue of Hawazin and Taqif first, and then the spoils of war will be distributed among the Sahaba. One of the people, captives who came among them was Shayma radiallahu anha. She was the foster sister of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the daughter of Halima radiallahu anha. When she came, Rasulullah recognized her by one of the marks on her, and then Rasulullah welcomed her actually and honored her, and she was let go because she was among the captives. So I just want to make sure that about the Hunain, we understand that part of it, that this battle, even though Muslims were in a huge number, but they were actually started losing the battle. Allah Azza wa Jal helped the Muslimin, and they were able to turn around the battle. But one of the biggest lessons for us Muslims to learn from this battle is the victory does not come from the material or the number of people or the soldiers. Rather, it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yes, we have to prepare our best if we are going in the battlefield. But at the same time, we should always remember that the victory comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we should always go back to Him for the victory. So inshallah, I'll stop here, and we'll talk about the Taif siege in the next week's lecture. If there's any questions or comments about today's topic, inshallah, I'll answer them first. Jafar, can you give me the charger? Okay, the question is, Hunain is Uhud. No, Hunain is not Uhud. Hunain is a different area we're talking about. Uhud is by Medina, and Hunain is by Taif we're talking about. It's close to Mecca. 1 second, I have to put the charger in my battery. It's dying for the... Like there's no question.
Assalamu alaikum, Asim bhai. I've got one question. Actually, recently I've been hearing a lot about, especially when you go to Pakistani news and different Shia and Sunni issues. The conversion of Abu Sufyan is taken as kind of a negative thing for Islam because first, his whole conversion, and then his generation to come afterwards. Actually, they actually kind of divided Muslims. Do you want to comment on something like this? that because Ummidi Caliphate was actually the entire it's a sons and grandsons of Hazrat Abu Sufyan.
Okay. So I'm not clearly sure about what exactly are they discussing, but in general, about when it comes to Abu Sufyan or anybody who enter into folds of Islam, uh, look, we look at them as we don't have any kind of proof or anything about to say about the Islam of Abu Sufyan was good or not. As a Muslim, you go by what we are aware of, right? So Abu Sufyan, he entered the folds of Islam. As a matter of fact, we talk about the Ghazwat of Hunain. He was one of the people who was still around Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam when everybody was retrieving back. He stayed there. Like Abbas was there, the uncle of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So was other muhajirin, some of the other muhajirin as well. But Abu Sufyan, who just entered into fold of Islam, he stayed there. Now, to talk about what happened with Muawiyah and between Ali and Muawiyah and all those things, to connect it to Abu Sufyan, I'm not sure what is the correlation and how they are correlating. So I'm not going to make a comment on that. But I want to make sure that we understand that as when it comes to somebody's Islam, we do not make we don't talk about what's in the hearts of the Muslims, right? Of the person. We talk about what we see in the actions. And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has actually showed us by the actions, if we go back and even talk about the one who we are aware of as the head of the munafiqeen, Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul, that how Rasulullah dealt with him. When it comes to the dealing with him, he dealt with him as a Muslim. To an extent that Rasulullah actually prayed the Salatul Janazah over him. Okay, and so from the action, you have to act against with the Muslims as Muslims. If somebody has nifaq, this is between him and Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. But that doesn't mean that if you see actions which are out of Islam, that and you continue to say the Muslim says okay, no, then you deal with the person according to his actions. Now, talking about Muawiyah's actions, Ali's action, these are, I think this is a different kind of a discussion, and it does not mean none of them say that Abu Sufyan was not a Muslim or Muawiyah was not a Muslim. I mean, if anybody is saying that, they have to prove it according to some evidences, not just because there were differences among Muawiyah and Ali that throws him out of Islam or anything.
So, but my question was not. I was not saying that they were not Muslims. What I was saying is that I mean, like people actually say that his conversion actually harmed Islam than it helped. But I mean that's fine. I mean, like it might.
See, all these things that happen, we're talking about. You do understand, Uthman radiallahu anh was also from Banu Umayyah, right? And one of the accusations, unfortunately, against Uthman was that he was favoring his family members.
Yes.
Which was incorrect, of course. He was giving the positions to the people who were worthy of those positions. So now, if there was if there's a mistake done, there could be a mistake. A human being can make a mistake. Look, these were not Anbiya when we talk about Sahaba. But Uthman, when we talk about him, the issues that were raised, there were, of course, false accusations against Uthman radiallahu anh. And he was from Banu Umayyah as well. Now, it's a very far-fetched idea that to think of it, Abu Sufyan thought of it in the time of Fatah Mecca, that this is how he's going to divide the Muslims or something. I'm not sure if this is what you're trying to say here, or those people are trying to say. I mean, if you can send me that information, probably I can listen to it and read it out first, so I have an idea of what's going on.
Okay. I will. Actually, I think it was in the textbooks I have to go back and watch that video again. Huria Maqbool Jan has brought a person who actually was exposing all of this. It's actually being taught in Pakistan.
Okay.
So I will do that. Okay.
Okay, that's
Jazakallah
good.
khair.
Okay. Any other question?